The coming live-action Star Wars series by Jon Favreau is a huge deal. Not only is this our first live-action Star Wars show ever, but the show is meant to sell the coming Disney streaming service. In this video, I want to break down all of the latest details, and there are some juicy tidbits. We're going to dissect all of it and talk about why I am personally so excited for this show. What is up, everybody? My name is Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. If you love Star Wars the way I do, subscribe to this channel. We do Star Wars videos all the time, but especially on Star Wars Sundays. So let's get right into this. There's been a lot of cool news coming out about the Jon Favreau television series, and I want to go over that with you guys. So first of all, let's talk about the budget and the production. Now, the Times literally did a huge article about the Disney streaming service, and within that article, they speculated that due to some things they had heard from Disney, that the budget for the coming live-action Star Wars series would be around $100 million. Now, it is believed that this show will have 10 episodes in at least its first season, and this puts it on the level of Game of Thrones, which approximately puts $10 million into every episode. But then there were a lot of insiders that came out after this report by the Times, and many people think that the budget for this show is actually going to be even bigger. Somewhere near 150, maybe reaching up towards $175 million. The bottom line is, whatever number is real out there, this is a massive budget for a television show, and I mean, it just makes sense. As I said, this is the first live-action Star Wars show ever, and they need this show to sell people on the subscription to the Disney streaming service. They're sparing no expense. Now, according to these same reports, the show is likely to begin principal photography in October. And that's actually super soon, but you will remember that at the Han Solo world premiere, Jon Favreau was asked about the show, and he had explained that he had already written half of the episodes himself. I think this is an idea and a deal that had been brewing over there at Lucasfilm for quite some time, and it's very cool that they're going to be starting so soon. If the streaming service does indeed launch late next year, it would make sense that this show would be ready to go at that time. Now, around October, we'll probably be getting even more details about the show. I mean, maybe some leaked footage, some set photos, perhaps some rumors floating around the internet, so make sure you look for all of that around October. Now let's move on to the plot and the story that will be covered in this show. All the official information that is out there so far is that this is 7 years after the Battle of Yavin, I believe. It takes place after Return of the Jedi, and we'll be talking about the galaxy as the Empire is fading away and the new rebellion is being born. That's a super cool time period to play in, but now a lot of rumors are suggesting that the center focus of the film will actually be on the planet of Mandalore. Now, if you're a casual Star Wars fan, the Mandalorian armor that Boba Fett and Jango Fett wear, yeah, those are the Mandalorians. By the way, weird fact here, Boba Fett and Jango were considered Mandalorians for a long time. Apparently in the new canon they are not, and I've heard somewhere that George never envisioned them to actually be Mandalorian, they just use the armor. But in either case, the Mandalorians have been making a huge presence in the animated Star Wars shows. Of course, in the Clone Wars, there was a whole arc where Darth Maul takes over the planet of Mandalore. Star Wars Rebels continues this with the character of Sabine Wren, of course, being tied to the planet of Mandalore. She's a Mandalorian, her armor and everything is really dope, but we spend some time on her planet learning about the traditions there. The Darksaber becomes a thing. We learn about the first Mandalorian Jedi and the Jedi-Mandalorian Wars, which until that show were considered legends, were brought back into canon. Now, it's important to note that some predominant trades are talking about this, and there are apparently a lot of sources that are clarifying this. So it's not just hearsay. I tend to believe it, and the announcement that Star Wars made at San Diego Comic-Con about the Clone Wars coming back kind of falls in line with this idea. You see, the Siege of Mandalore, which was essentially Ahsoka Tano taking Mandalore back from Darth Maul, was something that was supposed to be in the last few seasons seasons of the Clone Wars, but when Disney bought Star Wars, they canceled that. Now, that Siege of Mandalore did go on to be told in the Ahsoka novel, and it is dope, but the Siege of Mandalore is now going to be covered in this new, reinvigorated last season of the Clone Wars. And so it's high priority for Dave Filoni, it's high priority for people at Lucasfilm, which kind of would make sense if they're going to adopt those same ideas in the live action show. Essentially, we are going to see the response of the Mandalorians, who were an occupied planet under Imperial control, although they were a very proud, isolated warrior race themselves. There's a lot of room for political intrigue, different houses taking over. It's very Game of Thrones-esque. And I don't know, it just sounds like a great place to examine what the galaxy would be like as the Empire was falling. I'm excited to see that perspective. I also want to talk about why this is so cool. Jon Favreau is a huge Star Wars fan. He is a hardcore sweaty just like we are, and he has voiced different characters on Star Wars Rebels and in the Clone Wars. He and Dave Filoni have a friendly relationship, and I truly believe Filoni will be helping Favreau out as far as how to lay this show out and pull in all of these threads from different pieces of canon. The show's a super big deal. Dave Filoni is freaking Star Wars royalty and has single-handedly created so many different shows that resonate with people within the Star Wars brand. Now, as I follow that thread a little bit, you probably know where I'm going with this, but I think it's perfectly reasonable that we could see Sabine Wren, Bo-Katan, and different characters from the Star Wars Rebels TV show on this live action series. I mean, the timeline would at least be okay for Sabine Wren. We know she's much older, and she eventually leaves Mandalore to go search for Ezra Bridger, but maybe we see the beginning of that, or we see her on Mandalore before that happens. Either way, I mean, I'm super excited to see the Mandalorians, but I would, of course, love to see some Sabine Wren and maybe some of these other characters that we met in Star Wars Rebels. Could, of course, be an outside chance that we get to hang out with Sabine herself as her and Ahsoka are searching for Ezra Bridger. That could be a cool little subplot or something that they keep coming back to within the TV show. Man, I would be so down for that. That would be super hype. But those are my thoughts and all of the information that we have out there for Jon Favreau's live-action Star Wars series. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about all of this? Have you heard something different that I didn't cover here? I really want to know everything I can about the show, so if there's something out there, bring it to my attention. Now I want to shout out Potato, who got the nerd card question correct in my Mara Jade video. You definitely know your stuff when it comes to Star Wars, so shout out to you, Potato. And we're doing another nerd card question right now. And the question is, what was the name of the first Mandalorian Jedi? The man who crafted the Darksaber. I mentioned him earlier in the video, but I want to know, what is the name of that character? Answer that in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.